Hello and welcome to Stitchbook Creations. This is a special collaboration between Dolleemixtures, Fairiekin and myself. We chose the theme of Steampunk Christmas and this is where it's taken us. First of all, let's get started with the doll. This is a Claudia Wolf doll. I'm going to remove her ears and her teeth because she has the most beautiful smile, but she has some fangs which aren't very elven. Here I'm trying to be careful and sensible and cut away from my hand, but as you can see I ended up doing it the wrong way and cutting towards my hand, which actually made a cleaner cut. With a sharp scalpel blade I'm removing the fangs. I'm trying to be careful not to scratch any other surface on the face, and it's quite difficult. I'll use a nail butter at the end to try and smooth it down and make sure that there's as few ridges as possible. I have some hair here that I got from somewhere online, I can't remember where from. It's pre-packaged and pre-sewn into wefts, but I'm going to cut the hair off that I need. I'm only going to plug the edges because I want her to have a tied up hairstyle. And it's going to be too full and fluffy with all of this hair, so I'm trying to keep it minimal because I have some other plans to put things on her head as well. First of all, I need to paint the scalp so that it's a similar colour to the hair, just in case there are any gaps. And you can see the scalp underneath, it'll hide it a bit better. I tried to glue her ears on the side so she looked like a cute pixie or elf, but the glue I had just wasn't setting. I tried pinning it on, it just wasn't happening, so I tried to take it off and come up with a plan B. I'm using my homemade reroute tool. This uses a small hand drill and a needle that's been cut off at an angle at the eye. This way I can slide the hair onto the needle and stab it into the head, and the grip of the vinyl holds the hair in place until you glue it. With the hair done all around the edges, I'm going to get some glue and try and wedge it around so it just picks up the plugs and hopefully doesn't go through any of the holes left behind when I cut the ears off. Here I'm trying to make some goggles, so I've got some old leather and I've got a scrap of paper that I'm making a stencil from so that I can map out where the eye holes on the goggles need to be. The triangles are so I can squish her ears through and hopefully they'll hold them to the head a bit better. I've made a little slit in it so I can push the ears through, and then I'll be trimming off the excess as soon as I know where the ears are able to sit and stay in comfortably. Here I've cut some thinner leather and then sliced it at an angle so I can make some tubes for the goggles to give them some depth and make them look a bit more characterful. Using my trusty Yoo-hoo glue, whatever glue, I'm sticking it together and using a brush to sort of keep it separate and at the right size. This glue is quite fast acting, so it'll hold very quickly and I can apply it to the mask very quickly. I've used a toothpick just to try and remove some of the excess glue and make it look a bit more tidy. Now to wrap her hair up and start the face up. Make sure that the hair's all tucked away, otherwise it goes a bit scabby and yuck from all the MSC that builds up on it. This has been fondly called the hair burrito by a lot of doll artists. Once she's all nicely tucked away, I'll take her outside and give her a couple of sprays of Mr. Super Clear. The hair, as you can see, I've used on other dolls. If I use it all over and thickly, it's very big, very, very big, and that's not what we wanted for this doll. Here I've got some iridescent film, which I found on the internet somewhere. I'll try and find some links for you. And I thought they'd look fantastic for the glass and the goggles. It's got a bit of shimmer and a bit of shine. I start off with pastels and blush the forehead, cheeks and lips. Trying to keep the colours as neutral and natural as possible, but of course every little elf needs rosy cheeks and a bit of a rosy nose. I sketch out the eyebrows with pastels and try and get the shape that I want before I go in with pencil. Using lighter pastels, I accentuate the highlights, brow bones, nose, cheeks. I use a darker pastel in the creases and the eye sockets to try and make her eyes seem a bit more deeper and a bit more cutesy. I've tried to make her look a bit mischievous, although she's currently looking a bit psychotic and angry. And it gets worse with the eye colour, because I chose a reddy brown. But it does come together, I promise. She doesn't look too crazy. I'm going with the eyes, give her a base colour, and then I shall build it with dark and light colour pencils around the outside of the iris to try and give it some depth and interest. Go over the eyebrows with pencils, trying to draw in the different individual hairs. I'll use different colours here, including basic browns. I'll put some reds in as well to try and bring out the reddy colours in the hair. And I add some white streaks for highlights, and for the darker tones I'll add a darker brown or even some black. I've tried to make her lips look quite realistic. She's not really going to be wearing any lipstick per se, so she's got a red outer and a pinker for the inside of the lip. I add grey around the outside of the sclera of the eye and underneath the top eyelid to try and give the eye some roundness and depth so it looks a bit more than just a painted on eye. And of course, a shiny nose. I tend to leave the darker colours until the end of the process. Here I'm adding black to her waterlines to add some definition to her eyes. As I go through the process of building her eyes up, I'll build the lashes up with the later layers as well. This is so they'll have a bit of fluffiness to them, and I can add definition with some of the darker colours. And teeth. Instantly regretted drawing in each individual tooth. So I tried to go over it over and over and over again with the white pencils to try and blend it back a bit because it was a bit too manic, grinning, comic book looking, but we managed to pull it back a bit. Things always look better when you put the pupils in. It goes from being scary, red-eyed demon child to slightly cutesy, wide-eyed pixie, but only slightly. Mr. Superclear has a tendency to bring out the colours darker than they are and flatten the lighter colours and the highlights, so don't be afraid to use pencils for the extreme highlights. Mr. Superclear will always blend it back down again. Give it a go, give it a try, and if you don't like it, you can always wipe it off and start again. I use a bit of yellow just to try and add a bit of highlight in the iris, give it a bit more definition in the lines and the details in the actual iris itself. Now for my favourite bit, probably the bit that inspired the whole idea for the doll. I envisaged her being some kind of mechanic on Santa's sleigh, sitting on the sleigh, working on it if there's been something going wrong or some of the pistons have stopped or some of the pumps need replacing. So she's got this sort of coal-blasted face from flying over the chimney tops and all the smoke blowing in her face and onto the goggles and leaving an outline where the goggles are. And some extra blast lines just to make it a bit more dynamic. Onto clothes. Here I'm using the same method that Dolleemixtures uses, which is to cellophane the body and then use masking tape, or in my case sticky labels because my masking tape has gone missing, to cover half of the body and then draw a pattern on the paper. You only need to draw the half of it because it's repeated on the other side, unless it's an asymmetrical garment. But that's something we can cover at another time. Once it's all drawn, I take it off the mannequin and then I'll cut each piece out into its individual components. Then I'll lie it on some scrap paper, in this case it's an old envelope, and draw out the pattern pieces, including seam allowance, because I always forget to add seam allowance and I end up making them too small. I draw the pattern shapes onto the paper and a line up to the bust. This is going to be a dart because if you were to cut it out flat, you wouldn't have space for the bust line and it would pull in a very awkward direction. You wouldn't be able to put the clothes on properly and they wouldn't fit accurately. Although you don't need to add seam allowance to the bit that needs to be cut on the fold, I do cut that bit off eventually. Using the pattern piece for the front, I'm making it a bib shape. My plan is to put some lace or a frill around the front of it, and hopefully that'll add to the Victorian aesthetic. Now, freight check. Freight check everything, because this stuff goes messy, just like this bit here. This bit's folded in half and it's going to be the ruffle around the edge of the bib. This was quite fiddly to do and I had to do a lot of it off camera, which I'm very sorry for. Trying to pin it and stitch it under the machine was a nightmare, so I ended up hand stitching it. And once I'd folded the pleats on the wrong side, it then gets flipped over and you can see what it will look like eventually. If anybody's interested in learning how to make little shirts or even full-size shirts like this, quite happy for people to request that and I will work on a video or something to show you how to do that properly. Here I'm using some silk gutter, it's called, from when I used to do silk painting. It's a lovely bronze colour, so I'm able to put it around the edge of the goggles to hide the seams a bit better. Sadly it didn't stay puffy, it went a bit flat and it misshapen, but it's tidy. Now I pinned all of her hair back and tied it all into a ponytail, but I thought her hair's quite messy and it's meant to be quite dynamic because she's out on the sleigh working while it's moving. I've cheated here and I've used stick-on Velcro. I find it a lot easier to use than sew-on Velcro. I'm afraid I didn't record much of the skirt, but I will do another video with that. It's very simple. It's a circle with a little bit cut out the middle for the waist and the waistband put on it. Use a zigzag stitch to make sure that it keeps its stretch and doesn't snag or pucker when it gets pulled. I always find trimming the neck pegs down for the dolls seems to work better, just in case you have anything inside the head that's holding any head pieces or bits and bobs on. Here the hair's being tied up. It's fluffy and messy and tangly and perfect for what I'm after. I want it to look like she's been busy rushing around working in the workshop or on the sleigh as Santa's delivering parcels and having a whale of a time while she's going along. I didn't think that the elastics for the hair would work very well as an elastic for the goggles, so I've got some black elastic and I'm cutting it down so that it's got a bit of give to it, and I'm going to sew it on with my sewing machine, which unfortunately is off camera. But first I'm going to fray check the ends because this stuff frays like nobody's business. Normal Monster High boots don't fit the big sister bodies, which is frustrating because these ones are perfect from Rebecca Steen. So I've got some Headmistress boots which I wanted to put some bits and pieces and cogs and stuff on, but because of the vinyl that they're made of, they're very flexible and it would all just pop off, which is a bit disappointing. But you have to do with what you got. Now the elastic's on, I can pop the ears back in, and I've got some papercraft brads, or split pins as some people call them, and I'm putting them in so they look a bit like rivets. Although I should probably have done something a bit better because the ends keep getting tangled up in the hair when I try and move the goggles. I was really worried about breaking the goggles for some reason, but they're quite indestructible it would seem. Get them back on, see what they look like down, and then putting them on properly, see what they're going to be like. I'm quite impressed with how her ears look when they're on. Even when they're down, it looks like she's got her ears tucked down, so she's a bit more aerodynamic. I wanted her sleeves to be rolled up because she's a working kind of person, so she's going to want to keep her clothes tidy and tucked away. Really difficult to roll up tidy sleeves, so I ended up having to use elastic to tuck the sleeves up. Okay, so that's the top and skirt on, and now let's see what else we can do. I felt it was lacking on the cogs side of steampunk, and I know there's the old adage, shove a cog on it and it's steampunk, but it needed something more, so I'm trying to make something interesting on the side of the goggles to give it a bit more of a steampunk feel, and so it looks like it's still functional. Is functionable a word? I don't know. Functioning? Layering up different cogs and bits and pieces that I've got from various collections of tat that I have collected over the years, I think it's starting to look a bit more characterful. I'm using Fabri-Tac over the Yoo-Hoo glue because the Fabri-Tac's a bit more forgiving when it comes to moving around on fabric. It's got a bit more of a flexibility to it, I find. And the goggles are meant to be going up and down and moving around, so I didn't want them to fall off at an inopportune moment. In my random bits of stash, I found some jewellery findings that looked a bit cog-like, and I thought it'd look nice as a bit of interest down a skirt because I thought it was a bit simple and a bit boring. Using some jewellery making jump rings, I thought I'd make some earrings. I've got some bells on some papercraft wreaths that I thought would look really good, and didn't realise until too late that you can just fold the tops of it over rather than having to try and loop it on and twist it together like I do and fail at miserably. But you know, lessons learnt. There we go. And it just falls off. Like that. There she is, with the goggles on, earrings, hair ready, looking like a bit of a frantic mess, but looking like she's loving every minute of it. Just need to put some boots on her. And I think we're pretty much done. Found these tools on a Doll's House website and I thought they were fab to add to the whole thing, so I made her a little apron out of leather. Just glued the pocket on with Yoo-hoo glue and then used some waxed thread that I got lying around to make the straps for the apron. It's not quite the right size and it covers up my favourite bits of the outfit, which is the bib and the cogs at the front of the skirt. But it's removable. You know, got to be practical, got to cover up your clothes when you're working. And there she is. Sydney, Santa's elf, first mechanic of the sleigh. Thank you very much to Dolleemixtures and Fairiekin for joining me on this collab. It's been loads of fun. Here are some images of their work, and I just love how rugged and dark and creepy their dolls look, but they're so beautiful at the same time. You can see it all. It just all comes together beautifully and such good fun. Check out their videos below. I'm going to add their links. I'm going to make sure that you've got access to their videos so that you can see how they've made their pieces, because they're absolutely fantastic. I hope to see you soon. If you liked it, give me a like. If you really want to see some more stuff, subscribe. If there's anything in particular that you definitely need to or want to see, leave me a message and I'll get back to you. Come find me on Instagram. I've got an Etsy shop. If there's anything you want to know, just give me a shout. See you soon, guys. Bye.